Welcome to OAC Health Talks. I'm Joe Naglowski, President and CEO of the Obesity Action Coalition, and we are excited for you to join us for this educational series that dives deeper into specific health topics that we know are important to you and the OAC community. Health Talks are designed to empower you while providing straightforward, practical answers and insight from trusted experts. So let's dive into today's topic.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Erin Etzel, and I would like to talk to you today about sleep health and why it's important for managing your weight. When life gets busy, sleep is often the first thing that goes out the window, either because we don't feel we can leave enough time for it or because our worries about tomorrow's to-dos keep us awake. This is very unfortunate because getting enough good quality sleep is critical to our mental and physical health. I often tell my clients that sleep must be pretty important if we humans are supposed to sleep for roughly 1/3 of our lives. Insufficient sleep can have a negative impact on your ability to manage your weight and your metabolism, or the process by which your body converts the nutrients in the food you eat into energy. We will focus today on this relationship and also some tips for improving your sleep. Short sleep duration, which is defined as less than 6 hours per night for adults, has been associated with higher daily caloric intake in the research literature. This is primarily due to the influence of poor sleep on our daytime eating habits, but may also have to do with the reward system in our brains. When we're sleep deprived, we may crave foods that feed into that reward system, which are often pretty calorie dense. Generally, short sleepers consume fewer main meals, more snacks, and may engage in nighttime eating with the consumption of more calorie dense foods, sugar, fats, and fast foods, along with a lower intake of fruits and vegetables. This results in an overall higher energy intake and, over time, increased weight as well. Insufficient sleep can make it difficult to get through your day-to-day activities. Grocery shopping, doing laundry, engaging in exercise, or even socializing with friends can be much more challenging if you're feeling tired. Poor sleep makes challenging tasks even more challenging. When you're sleep deprived, you simply have less energy to plan for healthy eating. You may not feel like taking the time and effort to shop for and prepare nutritious meals. Or you may be more likely to give into a craving as you drive past the bakery or fast food place. With more sleep, you will be more likely to engage in different activities, even if they aren't necessarily physical in nature. You may end up sitting less or socializing more as a result. Sleep deprivation primarily affects weight management through its influence on two key hormones that regulate appetite and our metabolic functions. These are called leptin and ghrelin. Leptin is a hormone that suppresses appetite. It signals to the brain that the body has sufficient energy stored and stimulates burning calories for energy. Ghrelin, a hormone produced in the stomach, stimulates appetite and signals the brain that it's time to eat. So as you can see here, not getting enough sleep or getting poor quality sleep decreases the amount of leptin our body secretes. So our body's not getting those signals from the brain that we've had enough, and increases ghrelin. So our appetite continues to be stimulated, leading to increased hunger and ultimately increased food intake. There's another pathway that has sometimes been considered here as well, which is if we spend more time awake, perhaps there's also more time to eat, which could lead to increased food intake. There hasn't been quite as much support for this particular pathway in the research literature lately, but I thought I would add it here just for your information. Also, not having enough high quality sleep can lead to changes in how our body temperature is regulated. This can lead to a higher nighttime body temperature, which can interfere with our circadian rhythms signaling to our brain that it's time for sleep. Changes in body temperature regulation can therefore lead to delayed sleep onset, further exacerbating the impact of not getting enough sleep. Also, as we mentioned, not getting adequate sleep can also cause more fatigue during the day, and we may just have not as much energy or motivation to be physically active. So these two things together lead to less energy being burned over the course of a 24-hour cycle. Increased food intake and less energy burned leads to, over time, increased weight. Of course, we know from experience that there's so much more to obesity and weight management besides calories in, calories out. Our stress level and our ability to manage that stress, depressive symptoms, and eating to regulate emotions are all also factors that may have something to do with this particular pathway. I would also like to mention night eating syndrome, as this is something that may affect at least some percentage of those watching today. Night eating syndrome refers to recurrent episodes of nighttime eating, resulting in someone eating a quarter or more of their daily calories after dinner time, or eating after awakening from sleep in the middle of the night. Night eating syndrome symptoms tend to flare up during times of significant life stress and weight gain. Night eating syndrome is also more common in people with insomnia. In fact, people with night eating syndrome have been found to be both more likely to have trouble initiating sleep at the beginning of the night and also maintaining sleep throughout the night. Sometimes it's actually their belief that they won't be able to return to sleep without eating that drives this nighttime eating behavior. Fortunately, because of the power of thoughts and beliefs in night eating syndrome, cognitive behavioral therapy has been found to help reduce caloric intake after dinner time and improve quality of life, as well as even produce some modest weight loss in people living with night eating syndrome. Just like hunger is our biological need for food, we also have a biological need or drive for sleep. The longer we are awake, the stronger our drive for sleep gets. If our sleep drive is at its strongest, we start to feel drowsy. Our eyelids get heavy. We may yawn more. Our heads might start to nod. If we get into bed and try to fall asleep in this window, we're more likely to fall asleep faster and stay asleep. So as you can see here on this graph, sleep pressure or sleep drive is lowest when we first wake up in the morning and then gradually increases throughout the day. When we sleep at night, our sleep drive is lowered as we sort of fill up our tank. And then the next day, sleep drive gets stronger as the day goes on. We sleep best when our sleep drive is strong and the times that we go to bed and wake up are in sync with our internal clock. This internal clock is also known as our circadian rhythm, which is a pattern our body follows based on roughly a 24-hour day to coordinate physiological processes in the body. Things like sleeping, waking up, digestion, regulating body temperature. And a regular wake time is very important to keeping this internal clock consistent. It's very sensitive to changes in daily routines, our activity level, and exposure to sunlight. Sleep wake cycles are controlled quite a bit by this circadian rhythm, but so are those hormones that we talked about earlier, ghrelin and leptin, hormones that regulate our appetite and caloric intake. Short sleep duration can increase the secretion of ghrelin, stimulating more hunger, and decrease leptin. So aside from just helping us regulate our appetite and weight, there are loads of other benefits of better sleep. Things like sharper cognitive skills, so better memory and attention, more daytime productivity, finding it easier to manage stress and experience more positive emotions, better blood pressure regulation, immune system function, and decreased cardiovascular disease risk. There's even more, but I'll leave it at that for now. So just to recap, to sleep better, we need a strong sleep drive, a consistent circadian rhythm, and low levels of stress-related arousal in our bodies. So, if we want to fall asleep faster and stay asleep, then we need to strengthen our sleep drive, which means that, at least temporarily, we actually need to be awake longer. So because of this, don't go to bed until you are drowsy, until you feel those eyelids getting heavy, until it's hard to stop yawning. Only then will you be set up for the best chance to fall asleep quickly. If you must take a nap, keep it short, 30 minutes or less. Of course, if you're recovering from a surgery or feeling ill, it's perfectly fine to take a nap. You just may want to consider, again, keeping it short and possibly taking it in the same place where you would like to sleep at night, just so your brain gets used to sleeping in that spot. We also want to keep our internal clock consistent. So this means waking up at a consistent time every day. Yes, even on weekends, I'm sorry to say. And your daily routines are also important here. So keeping a regular schedule for meals, exercise, and other activities can help with this. And you may want to go outside at least once a day, preferably when the sun is out in the morning, for 20 minutes to help set your clock. Regular exposure to sunlight is very important for keeping this internal clock in rhythm. Also, we want to retrain our brains to understand that the bed is where sleep happens. Well, sleep and sexual activity. Any other activities, so reading a book, surfing the internet, listening to music, fighting with your spouse, feeling sad or stressed, any of that should occur somewhere else besides your bedroom. This way, your brain has a smaller number of options to consider when it sees your bed and it's nighttime. Hopefully, if you've eliminated those other activities from the bedroom, your brain will start to understand that the bed is only for sleep. Also then, try not to spend too much time in your bed during the day. We really want to strengthen that association between your bed and good, peaceful sleep. So being awake in bed during the day, doing other things, will be counterproductive there. What this also means is that during the night or at the beginning of the night, if you are not asleep within about 20 minutes, then you should get out of bed. This is probably the tip that my clients dislike the most when it comes to improving their sleep, and yet it's a very important one. We want to, again, establish the bed as a place where good sleep happens, not a place where you get frustrated and toss and turn and start to worry about what's going on the next day. You are trying to teach your body signals about when it's time for sleep, and then take away signals that show your body that it's okay to just kind of lay there awake in bed for hours. So often folks will ask, what do I do with this time? And the answer there is to choose a non-stimulating, non-striving activity, maybe a crossword or reading a magazine, something that you can put down once you start to feel those cues of drowsiness again, so that once you feel those, you can return to bed. And you might need to try this quite a few nights. But remember, since low levels of stress-related arousal are also important here, we don't want you to try too hard to fall asleep. This will only raise your alertness and actually prevent sleep. So find something else to do that will make you feel relaxed. If possible, like I said, do it in another room in your home. So this wouldn't be a talk about sleep and weight management without mentioning something called obstructive sleep apnea. Obstructive sleep apnea is a sleep-related breathing disorder that includes multiple temporary cessations of breathing during sleep due to a narrowing or blocking of the upper airway, which deprives OSA sufferers of the deepest stages of sleep that are the most restorative. More fat deposition around the neck, so also a greater neck circumference, is a risk factor for obstructive sleep apnea, which makes the upper airway more likely to collapse. So as you can see here, there's a little bit of a process to obstructive sleep apnea. And the good news is that you don't actually have to do anything to ensure that this happens and you start breathing again, should you suffer from OSA. Our brain does that for us. So breathing may temporarily stop. The level of oxygen in one's blood starts to drop. The brain recognizes this low oxygen, and our fight or flight response to stress kicks in, which ultimately will wake us up so that we can start breathing again. And this is great. Our brain's wired to keep us alive. However, if this happens over and over again throughout the night, we're losing out on some really important deep restorative sleep. So please, if you have any possible signs of sleep apnea, things like excessive daytime sleepiness, which might include even dozing off behind the wheel, waking up gasping or choking, waking up with a dry mouth or throat in the morning, loud snoring that perhaps bothers a bed partner, and you haven't been evaluated for sleep apnea yet, please ask your primary care provider what they think about your sleep apnea risk. Thank you for listening, and remember to snooze if you want to lose. Thank you.
If you found today's Health Talk valuable, we invite you to help us continue providing trusted, science-based education about obesity and health. As we celebrate 20 years of education, advocacy, and support, your generosity helps ensure that we can reach even more people. Visit obesityaction.org/donate to contribute today. Your generosity fuels our mission. Thank you for making a difference.